Hello, dear Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now, is the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. And if you're joining us anywhere other than twitch.tv/deepmindfulness, come on over and join us. I got a big foamy cup of matcha here, ready to roll, ready to light them up. A little mustache foam here. Good times. We're here with our co-pilot here, Nick. Thank you, Nick, for all your support, as always. What is going on, folks? So it's a crazy time. We really appreciate you joining us, given how much is happening in the world. Being here to make sense of that is an important part of being a person, being human. Hello, Bloody Dior. Welcome. Nice to have you here. And Tom Frickhammer, joining us from Sweden. Bloody Dior, curious where you're joining us from. I'd be curious where someone with the name, is it French? You're from France? Is that a French moniker? Let's see. Rory from Kingston, Ontario. Tomalan from Tamil. Lovely. Folks, as we begin to... Nick is here from Sweden. Nick, you're occupying two locations. One is in Brooklyn, New York, and one is in Sweden, of course. Let's see. Silent Will. Hello, joining from the UK. Welcome from the UK. We have a few of our folks from the UK. I always pretend to imagine that they're all actually in the exact same location, because I think of the UK as just London, as one should if you're a proper American. Okay, mic adjustment complete. Maybe there is where we want it. So yeah, folks, what on earth is going on? What is it that's happening for you? Okay, we got Jimmy here. Jimmy, the meditation guy. Jimmy, where are you coming from? Okay. Silent Will says here, where I am is nothing like London. Yeah, well, that's the luxury of being an American. You don't actually have to be accurate. You just have to be general and sound sure of yourself. Little Liner says, I vote for pre-stream matcha making session. We could, well, first of all, pre-stream, that's no problem. Everyone here is welcome to do some matcha pre-stream, but maybe you're talking about on-stream. Jimmy, welcome from the UK. Oh, look, so there's more people who live in London. See how easy this is? As a see how easy it is to how much easier life is if you're an American. Everyone in the UK is in London. Everyone in the US is in LA or New York. Lovely. So folks, we're very excited. We have a fun day today. So I had a question arise. This is the question we're going to be working on, and I'm very curious to hear other people's questions. Betsy. Hello from Boston. Yeah, or New Yorkers call it LL Bean Country. LL Bean Country starts like, Connecticut up. Exactly. TK4108, greetings from Singapore. Lovely, good to have you here from Singapore. I am very excited to get back to Southeast Asia. Maybe we should visit you in Singapore, or visit Singapore in general, just because, just for fun. Just to get, we keep going back to Thailand, and then we keep telling ourselves, we should visit someplace else, and then we're like, we really like Thailand, so we're trying to go to different places. Tom Frickhammer says, I need that matcha recipe. Well, I'll tell you, the recipes are very simple. Yeah, okay, so Nick says, Swedes are in the woods of Stockholm. Exactly, yeah, so it's just Stockholm. Maybe that's the American way. It's just like whatever I think it is, I just assume that is universal. So when I think of Sweden, I think it's Sweden. Oh, God, see, this is. I'm like, I think it's Sweden. Maybe it's Switzerland, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good American. It's like, yeah, the same thing. Yeah, Sweden, Switzerland, same thing. That's my American perspective. So, Betsy, I know that LL Bean is definitely in not from anywhere other than that. But I think of places where people wear LL Bean as places that are LL Bean country. That's the point I was making. 2020 CL, hello from the UK. You might just be joining us 2020, but we just had a whole thing about what I think about the UK. Here's what I think about the UK. No, I'm just kidding. So folks, very, very excited to have us all here today. We're going to be meditating and answering this question. We'll be answering any questions you want, but one of the questions we'll be going to be answering in the form of meditation is there anything other than sensing? Is there anything other than sensing? Now, I also wanted to mention that we can. I think it's good that we're meditating. I think it's good that we're taking the time. There's a lot of different things happening in the world for us and for everyone. But I also wanted to mention that Raquel and I were just out yesterday, and we were there was a protest, and there's lots of cops all over the place, and at some point we had to leave, and we're driving through Brooklyn, and there's lots of windows shattered and stuff everywhere, and lots of people sort of in masks and this kind of thing. And that's just like a very tiny snapshot of our lives and our relationship to this helicopters flying all over everywhere. But in the U.S., it's a lot of chaos right now, and there was already a lot of chaos. I mean, if you think about it, people were terrified about coronavirus, and what is happening right now is so intense that people are just like, whatever, we're going out. We're getting in these large groups together. So if that's some indication of how intense the feelings are right now. So that's happening, and I just want to acknowledge that, and I want to talk a little bit about that. We sent an email out last night about different strategies about what to do. P.S. The drilling definitely just started. We'll talk about some strategies that we have, some suggestions, and there's some top-down strategies if you're interested in sort of affecting the larger system as a whole, and bottom-up strategies, which are more grassroots, moving towards coming from a place of more one-on-one work, expanding outwards from there. So if any of that is of interest, we're happy to share those resources with you. And I think it's important also to run the gambit, that we're allowed to have fun, we're allowed to be human beings and have our experiences, and we're allowed to take in and absorb the difficulties that are very, very real that are occurring. So that's we talked about that in the last stream. The definition of mental health is the ability to hold contradictory thoughts and emotions at the same time. So for me, there's a lot of contradictory thoughts and emotions, but I also didn't want to just be like, la, 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 we just meditate and have fun, and not acknowledge how difficult this time is. I thought that could be harmful to some, harmful to me. Okay, so Nick says, I thought that was a cliche, but I like them Swiss folks. Yeah, exactly. What I was going to say is I think it was Sweden, but I realized then I might have been in Zurich, or the other way around. There was an airport that was built to be completely sound absorbing, and I was there, and I was like, it is very quiet here. So, gotta love some silence. So folks, we're going to meditate for 25 whole minutes. So if you've never done that before, it's actually not a big deal. No big deal. Oh, and afterwards I'm going to go into the matcha recipe and all sorts of fun things. What else? Answering your questions. So any questions that you have as you meditate, and questions can include anything from like, huh, to, huh, to, ooh, whatever level your question arises from. Bloody Dior says, where is Shinzen Young? Shinzen Young is in Arizona. That's where he lives now. He's doing he's doing research science there. Hopefully, you weren't expecting Shinzen Young to be here, because that's not what this stream is. But he's in Arizona. Oh, good. An even louder drill is beginning. So, folks, if you're new to this stream, every once in a while they're redoing the facade of the building. So every once in a while the drilling becomes really something, and it's an opportunity to recognize that this is a good metaphor, actually. No matter what's going on, meditation can actually work with that rather than having to work against it. Often we have this feeling that in our lives we need to ignore or fight or push away things that are challenging and difficult, but we actually get the most mileage out of metabolizing what's happening, metabolizing our response to those things. So even as it feels like maybe the world is burning as we're sitting here, allowing that and allowing our response to that, I think, is much more not only mature, but much more skillful, much more likely to actually have a lasting effect on us and the world. So that may happen with the drilling. It might occur during our practice. Silent will, it's a good place to practice focus, but it's also a good place to practice equanimity, which is to recognize, okay, there's maybe it happens, drilling happens, and the system's like, get away. Every part of that is part of the meditation. So the drilling is part, we can allow that to be there. The part that's pushing away, it's going to happen. We don't want to push away the part that's trying to push away. That just creates a feedback loop. Look, the system's resisting. There it is. Maybe it's emotion, maybe it's mental imagery or something. So just noticing, okay, the system's pushing away in this form. So I think actually what we'll do is we'll do a little concentration practice to begin with, and then we will go into the insight practice. So finding a nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. This means arranging the body well. Arranging the hips so that they are a bit lower than the knees. This allows the hips to slightly rock forward, the lower spine to naturally curve, and the upper spine to balance on that. That is, of course, if you're doing a seated meditation. And when you're ready, we'll begin. We're beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and feeling the rising and falling of the body. I'm going to describe different parts of the body and see if we can relax each of these different areas in the body. Often we can have the sense that this part of the body or that part of the body is already relaxed. But as I name different parts, see if you can relax even further. What would this part of the body feel like if it were just slightly more relaxed? So starting at the top of the head, relax the brow. Relax the muscles behind the eyes, allowing the eyes themselves to just fall towards gravity about 1 millimeter. Letting this relaxation spread to the face, allowing the face to go smooth. relaxing the back of the tongue, allowing the jaw to go slack. Relaxing the neck and the shoulders. The upper arms. Elbows. Forearms. Wrists. And relaxing the hands. Letting go of any attempt to control the breath, just letting the body breathe as it will. Noticing the natural tightening and relaxing of the upper chest and upper back as the breath comes and goes. Relaxing the belly and the lower back. Relaxing the hips and the upper legs. The knees and calves. Relaxing the ankles and relaxing the feet. We're going to bring into our attention the sensations of the breath. That may be in different places for different people. For some it might be the rising and falling of the abdomen or the shoulders rising and falling. But I'm going to describe the sensations of the breath at the tip of the nose, but you can choose whichever area you notice the breath predominantly. We're going to play a subtle game. How can we hold the mind in a gentle way that will stay with these sensations as continuously as possible? We're going to use a label. Each time we detect this precise breath sensation in this precise moment, we're going to use this label. Label is this, referring to that exact cross-section, this sensation at this moment. Helping the mind recognize that the definition of this label changes every time we use it, referring to a new sensation in a new moment. And of course, distractions will arise. The mind will drift at times or be pulled to a different kind of sensation. And there can be a sense that this is something that's problematic. We might be trying to really focus, push our mind into one place to stay with the sensations of the breath. And something is intruding, pulling us away. So we're going to change that perspective by simply observing this as we've been. And whenever something else arises, we'll simply label it as not this. It's not a problem. It's not something to be gotten rid of. It's simply not this. In this way, we divide the entire world into these two broad categories, this and not this. Now we're going to make a bit of a change. Rather than experiencing this and not this as still being somewhat opposed, these different categories, recognizing that this is a kind of small piece of sense data, and it's surrounded by a great deal of not this. So we're going to allow both of these to be present at the same time, cultivating not this as a kind of container within which this can reside. Our attention observes the sensations of the breath, like the bullseye on a target. But of course, the bullseye is only as stable as it is because of the larger target, all of the other material around it. So simply allowing that material to exist as though it were the periphery, holding and the stability of this. Now we're going to make a slight change, staying with the momentum of the practice we've developed, but letting go of concern about this and not this. Effectively turning towards what we've been describing as not this, meaning everything. But we're going to include the breath. Observing all that can be observed in this moment, all sensing, all seeing, hearing, or feeling. So I'd like us to take some time and observe and investigate. Is there anything that I can find at this moment that is not sense data, that is not seeing, hearing, or feeling, including mental seeing, mental hearing, or emotion? Is there anything other than that in my experience at this moment? And of course, the mind might simply answer yes, there is, or no, there isn't, but that's not the answer we're looking for. We want to ask our senses. Is there anything that can be detected? That is not in one of these categories. When we drift away or return from distraction, there's a bit of a trace of what was occurring. Was any part of that something other than emotion, mental imagery, mental audio? If it's helpful or interesting, if the eyes are closed, we can even allow the head to turn as though it were looking around and observing our world. This can often help with a bit of concentration. as though we were scanning our experience. If we're practicing with the eyes open, we can also do this as long as the eyes remain resting on a single point. There can often be this sense that while, yes, there are senses, there's something else. Perhaps there's a me, or there's an experience of something special, something else other than just sense data. So exploring and looking for that something else, and if we find anything, checking in, what is this built out of? Is it sense data or is it something else? Seeing the darkness of closed eyes, or if the eyes are open, resting on a single point, all the visual activation. Seeing our sense of space, location, arrangement, the sense that there is an up and a down, there's a body that extends out below. Memory, planning, fantasy, these all play out in the visual experience. Hearing sounds, or hearing the mind chatter, or mumble, or be silent. Feeling the body, including emotion. Is there anything in this universe that I can experience at this moment that is not the sense experience? And if we find that, yes, we found something that is not the sense experience, that aha, that realization, is it built out of anything other than the sense experience? even if we've explored this many times, there can still be a lingering sense that the most important element, something essential, is in fact not sensing, something beyond this. And so exploring over and over again, what is this experience built out of? Even our assessment thus far, how is this meditation going? Maybe the body-mind reads it as going wonderfully or going terribly. Noticing the physical sensations, the emotions which indicate this. Perhaps the mental imagery that tells us what this assessment is like. Our sense of inside and outside, self and world. Our sense of time, many snapshots of experiencing held in memory. Memory being visual and emotional, typically. And staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes. Eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point. As they fully open. Letting the visual experience expand. And again, asking our senses the question, is there anything I can experience at this moment which is not built out of these same primary elements? And letting this question and the way our senses answer that question, letting this be the great teacher. It shows us how to bring this practice into our daily lives. Okay. So making any adjustments you need to allow the body to be comfortable. This foamy matcha, I don't know if you can hear this. That's a foamy matcha. So folks, there are many ways that a meditation teacher can find out about your experience. One is to hire a writer to interview you carefully, finding out about your descriptive experience, and then to make a detailed claimation illustrating what they imagine to be what you're describing, outfitted with fun animals and a whole environment, and then show that to the meditation teacher so that they might best understand your experience. But an easier way, a more direct way, is to just tell me. Just use your mouth words and go from there. So folks, I am going to put us up into Zoom, Zing Zang Zoom here. Beep, boop, boop, boop. Calculating. What am I doing here? Okay, here's the Zoom link. If you'd like to tell me about your report, ask a question live. Here we are. Oh, look here. We have myself in Zoom. Welcome, self. So if you'd like to tell me about your experience or give a report, you can jump in here on Zoom, and we will get to hear all about your experience. No pressure, obviously, but there we go. That is helpful. Participants there. Zoom window there. Okay. Excellent. So, beep, 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 beep. Very fun. Okay, so yeah, folks, we are here ready to roll if anyone wants to jump onto Zoom, or if you prefer, hey, no pressure, just let me know in the chat what that experience was like. And the chat is where? The chat is where? Nope, I don't want to open Discord. Thank you for asking. I want to open this. What was that experience like? Tom says, I didn't exactly fall asleep, but I don't remember much beyond the concentration practice. Okay, well, that's good to know. There's this sort of liminal zone, which is sort of in the range of where hypnotic material happens. That is not always the easiest to navigate, but just to know that, just to pay attention to that as it's occurring, and often if we can soak into the sleepiness that might be occurring and might feel very sleepy, but the knowing of that sleepiness is actually quite bright and awake, so we can use that to our advantage. We have to get used to the process of knowing beyond, or knowing despite the fact of, or knowing separate from experiencing, which can be tricky at first, but once we can do that, we can know the sleepy experience without it getting pulled into it necessarily. Nick says, when you said all there is sense experience, I'm like, yeah, of course. And then oh, sensory experience is all there is, and no extra sensory experiences. Question mark. Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out if that is a question. Oh, you said, of course so, and then you said, and then, oh, like sensory experience is all there is, and no extrasensory experiences. Yeah, I mean, basically part of what this is from my perspective, this is like the foundational insight. This is the foundational, I was thinking about this as like, this is meditation number one. Now, of course, I've done this meditation many times. I've guided many, many people in this particular meditation, but still there's some part of the body-mind that's like, well, yeah, but you know, there is this extra thing. There's this extra sort of juju that like is the combination that makes something more important than just sensing. And I find it really helpful just over and over again to ask the system experientially, what is it that's what is it here that is outside of sensing? And over and over and over again, watching the system answer. And of course, the mind is going to give its answer. And that's how we know if it's a mental answer versus an experiential one. The mind is like, I'm right here, like, of course it's this. And then the sensation will, or the mind will say like, no, there isn't, or yes, there is. It'll be very clear and quick. But the senses will tell you over and over again with new information. It'll just show you again, okay, no, this is sensing. Nope, this is sensing. Nope, this is sensing. So that's the exploration, is to let the system teach us and let the sense understanding, in other words, the insight, that's what's called insight, sense knowing, let that surpass the mental knowing in that way. Oh, experiencer, believing that there is a special thing which is not made of sensing, experiencing. Yeah, that's, oh yeah, it's experiencer, yeah. So you were saying there's no sensory, no extra sensory experiencer. Yeah, the experiencer, there is no experiencer. That's the sort of insight. And if we want to have these experiences of like non-self or of emptiness or any of these things. This is for me at least, this is the prime route to get there, is to let the system discover that there is nothing but sense data. And there is a deep emptiness to that. There's a deep breakdown of self and world in that experience. There's a deep clarity of impermanence when we recognize that, okay, my senses are continuously changing and there's nothing but that. So this is this is one very direct route into a lot of those sort of classical insights. The 15 meditations we have here, I'm sure many people have seen them, they're programmed here to just repeat and throw the link in there every, I think 10 minutes or something, like 15 minutes. Those go over this in detail, and it's much more convincing experientially when we go through one by one and be like, okay, I'm going to get very clear on this sensation and very clear on this sensation and very clear on this sensation, and finally get to this place of being like, is there anything other than this? And I work with a student for a while who'd say, yeah, I get it. There's nothing but that. So what? Well, that is almost universally an indication that that's the mind answering. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. So what? The mind is likes to package things in a generic way and then just throw that away. So the mind doing that's fine, but to know, okay, what is that built out of is significant. Can I see that is actually just built out of senses? Not to know it, to get it, to understand it, but to observe that. Can I observe the sensory structure of that over and over and over and over again? And recently we're doing this whole thing for frontline medical workers, and we're trying to explain, why is it that paying attention to your current moment sensory experience would be significant at all? Why does that even matter? And what we came to, or what we were describing it as, which I think was very interesting, was that, okay, maybe we have one instant that's free of our, troubles, worries, anxieties, our experience of the self narrative of needing to protect the self. Okay, it's just one instant. So what? I mean, what's the big deal? Well, it's significant because it's an instant that is free of our anxieties, worries, self-narrative, worries about jealousy. It's completely free of those. So pay attention. And if we stack those up enough, it starts to teach the system how to navigate outside of that. And that's basically how meditation works. Tom, oops, wrong window. So many windows. Okay, Tom says, I have a question about my practice. I like where this is going, Tom. I have a question about my practice. I find working on see-in, see-mind in your system to be quite difficult. Do you have any tips on working with that? Well, Tom, let me tell you, do I ever? Tom, this is a question I ask everyone, but I want to make sure because it's pretty, it's something. Are you familiar with / do you have access to, have you gone through the 15 meditations that are listed here in the chat? Have you gone through those? That's my first question. If I know the answer to that, then I can go from there. No pressure if you have not. And any other questions? Anything else coming up for folks as Tom contemplates that question? I did the Shinsight course last round. Okay. Okay, right, of course. I'm making the connection now. So you say working with see-in is quite difficult. Do I have any tips for that? Well, basically, the general tip is repetition. And describe. And again, it might be slightly easier if you jump on the Zoom. If you want to, we can. That's great. If not, no pressure. Just so I can ask you some questions. Otherwise, I answer potentially not your question, but what I think your question is, which is there can be a subtle but significant difference there. So my next question is, what do you mean by difficult? Do you mean that it's hard to stay concentrated, that the mind sort of drifts around? Do you mean that it's hard to detect the experience of that it's very subtle, it feels like it's not really there, it's elusive in this way? Is it difficult because it is there's many things that people are describing that you're not noticing, but you are noticing other sort of significant aspects of that experience. So which of those is the case? I'm going to ask Raquel a question. Okay, I was just asking for the link to the registration for the upcoming retreat. What's up? Which is exciting. We have a free retreat coming up in fewer than 20 days. And that is exciting. Y'all are welcome. We're going to be working on some material from the Progress of Shinsight course, but basically it's going to be about how the mind produces self and world. Trying to reach phone. Wait, why do you need my phone, you damn dingus? To turn on the computer? I guess they talk to each other. How about that? Okay. This is a Google form survey, which is our registration form. And here it is, folks. Here it is. Nope, that's not what I wanted, you silly Billy. Oh, there it is. Okay. This is registration for our upcoming retreat, so please feel free to jump into that. We'd love to have you there. It's going to be the 20th, and myself, Raquel, and Aishin are going to be helping guide that. Okay, so Tom says making distinctions is the thing that is difficult there. Well, I think part of CN experience is it's often not that distinct, and often, this is what I've experienced. I had one student who I think I love, still work with quite a bit, and they said, I just don't have CN experience. And I think that they had an image of what it was supposed to be like, and then they kept comparing it to their actual experience, and we're saying, but they're just so different. And there's a little bit of irony there, because they have an image of what it's supposed to be like, and then their actual experience isn't like that. And so a couple things are happening. One is, hey, what is the image of what it's supposed to be like? Like, what do I think it's supposed to be like? Because that's CN. Like in this case, it's CN. And what is actually happening is probably going to be more fruitful than what we think should be happening. So, I mean, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and there's a little delay in the response time, so you might not be able to answer in real time. If you can answer in real time, that's lovely, but if not, no pressure, as per always. Okay, so right now, as you're hearing my voice, and anyone can do this along, this is a CN sort of clarification exercise. Is there a sense that there is such a thing as up and down? Is up and down part of my experience? I mean, I have a sense that there is, and you can check right now. Lean your head towards what seems like down, lean your head towards what seems like up, okay? Is there a sense of left and right? Whether it's left or right, or you could say this side or that side, right? Okay, there's a sense of that's a side, great, got it. Is there a sense of sort of location? Just sort of the environment that I'm in. I'm in an environment that the mind produces. Okay, great. Is there a sense of a body that tends to be experienced as below? Oh, yeah, there's a body down there. Yeah, got that. Okay. Is there any sense of, if I say the following word, do you understand what the word is? So if I say some made-up word like schminkle, plank, plink, blam, right? The mind might onomatopoetically sort of put some pieces together there, but you probably don't, make that a very clear word. Your mind's going to be guessing on that, and everyone's going to have a pretty different estimation of that. And the example that you've probably heard me do before is the German word, right? So if I tell you a German word and you don't know German, the mind will not put it together. But if you've heard me do this before, the mind will put it together very quickly. So the German word is Schmetterlinge. And the mind might sort of try to put that together and say, oh, I think it's this, I think it's that. So you can't even understand, if you don't know German, don't know this example, your mind can't put it together. But if I say the English translation, your mind will very quickly know what I'm saying. It'll know the sounds and it'll put it together, right? So the translation is the word butterfly. So do you know what that is? Or do you have a sense of what a butterfly is? Well, yeah, sure, I do. So that even that little inkling, that sense, that flash, sure, butterfly. What if I say it's a iron butterfly? Right? an iron butterfly, right? The mind will probably pretty quickly, it's contradictory, but it'll give you a little flash of an image of that. Or we could say it's a bright yellow butterfly, right? The mind will flash an image of that. None of those are super distinct, but I have very little doubt that all of those you were able to be like, yeah, sure. That yeah, sure is your route, right? It doesn't need to be as clear as our visual experience. Now, it will not be that clear. Now, over time, if you stay with it and stay with it and stay with it, I've had a few experiences in my life where see-in became so dramatically clear that I had to check if my eyes were open or not. I was sitting there like, both of these were, there's one time this happened not on retreat, but it was so dramatically bright. It just looked like the world in a brightly lit, moonlit night. It was that clear, which is very clear. I don't know if you've ever been in a very bright moonlit night, but you can read by that. It was very, very clear, and I could look around and everything would track and move, and it was glowing. And that was very, very vivid, but that's not that common. Let's see, Tom says, I find that my mind is quite slow to form an image, but it's not. Okay, the Shinzonian position is different than what I'm doing. So I'm doing something that's like Shinzen doesn't advise. So I'm gonna talk about both sides of this. Let's see, and that sometimes the image is incorrect in regards to the words that I hear. Great. So, okay, I'm gonna do both sides of this. Shinzen would say, hey, whatever is happening, that's cool. If you don't see anything, just label it as see rest. That's also actually very skillful. So just, oh, I don't see anything, or it's vague or whatever. Cool, call that see rest. It's not a problem, because often the mind just makes problems where there aren't any. So just, fine. I'm not seeing something very clear. We're going to call that see rest. Totally skillful. Fully skillful. And what's not advised is to do what I'm basically doing, is to say like, no, actually, I think your system is actually better at this than you think it is, because that can make people be like, I don't get it, or like feel like they're doing something wrong, or shame, or something like this. So I think your system is much faster than you think it is. So here, I'm going to do something off camera that you can't see. What shalt I do? Okay, this will be simple. Oh, am I frozen? You guys got to tell me when I freeze up. It's when we open Zoom, everything starts freezing. Hello. Okay, I'm going to do something off camera. Okay. Right. So, do you think that is the sound of ducks eating bread, or was it the sound of hammering on hot steel to make a Iron Man outfit? Was it a cat, cats fighting, that sound? Right? The mind knows that very quickly, and it's actually so fast that sometimes it's hard to pick up. But part of it is to recognize, like, just that knowing, that's it. The mind knows it that quickly. So if I do another sound off screen here, let's see here. I want to make sure this is okay. I'm going to do another sound off screen. How long did it take the mind to figure out that was the sound of a bird chirping, right? That was just a bird chirping, right? No, of course it wasn't. The mind knows immediately. It takes the sound and it produces it into a kind of knowing. That knowing is so fast that sometimes we miss it. But part of what we're doing is training the system to be like, oh, I accept that answer, right? I'm going to accept that answer. So that's part of what it is. One thing that you might do to do this is to sit someplace, especially if you're like outdoors or someplace that's kind of busy or something like this, and just sit with the eyes closed and just notice how quickly the mind will know what a particular sound is. Now, if it doesn't know, then you've taken the course already. You know that that's the mind failing to create nama out of rupa. Also fine, it's not a bad thing, but the mind does know typically very, very, very quickly. Oh, we have another follower here, Rostin CPHD. What's up, Rostin? Rostin in the house. Thanks for following. If folks are new here, we can get follows Folks can follow us on twitch.tv/deepmindfulness. That gives you updates for when we're going live. I think it gives you, well, it gives you a sense of purpose in this world, which isn't that what we're all looking for? So Roshjan says, at Deep Mindfulness, wow, you look just like the indie actor Robert Casino. Okay, I gotta see this. It's funny because I get these different people that I'm supposed to look like. Joe McHale, when I had no beard, I don't know if people know, I look comically, like my head looks comically small when I have no beard. It's like, anyway, to me it does. It looks like I have a ridiculously silly little chin, although it wasn't at the time. I didn't think that, so I'm sure if it went away. Okay, let's look up this person real quick. Indie actor Robert Casino. See, what's coming up is Robert De Niro in Casino. Nope, it's just, man, tough for that guy. This guy is tough in Google searches. Literally nothing but Robert De Niro. If you have a link, let me share it up. If you can find this guy, if you know what movie he's in or something, I can search it up. I want to see who I look like, my celebrity doppelganger. Nope, literally just more Robert De Niro. So I look like Robert De Niro, huh? That's interesting. Okay, so Robert Casino. Okay, so if whatever we can go in that direction. So I want to keep answering Tom's question. Could the delay be due to English is not my mother tongue? Well, yeah, absolutely. And also, let's go back to your earlier question. So it feels like it takes 1 or 2 seconds, depending on the word and the sound. Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And so it's fine that the mind. And also, P.S. Here's something more significant, right? That calculating time, that's sort of like trying to like get a grasp on it, you're watching the mind, nama, or the nama part of the mind, the ordering structure of the mind, try to order things into shape. That's very significant because that's what the system is constantly doing, is trying to order things and get them into shape. So if you can observe both sides of that transition, that's very significant in terms of insight. So forget like, oh, I know how see and occurs or whatever. We're not trying to get see into occur faster, right? Watching it form is incredibly significant. That's actually, I mean, that's more significant than just noticing that it's particularly there. Watching it go from unresolved data into resolved data, that transition is incredibly significant. So watch that transition, and if it helps to do it with foreign words, even better. Use that, and don't try to do anything. Let the mind do it on its own, and observe that process. That's very significant. But yeah, of course, it's always going to change depending on whatever. But the mind does. Very quickly, it's probably quicker than you might think, is just showing us that data. So let's see here. Alexander Bethany says, supposedly he's not actually a thing, but I believe in him. You look just like him in my mind. Exactly, yeah. So that's what's funny. If you want to know what this actor Robert Casino looks like, it's sort of like me, but not really. He's a little bit younger, and he's a little bit more some ethnicity that is not mine, and just let the mind produce that. Exactly. Let's see. And like you can, it's so prevalent. It really is this sort of feeling of like fish to, like explaining water to a fish. Exactly. Robert Casino's the actor playing me. Hey, have you ever seen us in the same room at the same time? That's what I want to know. So any sense, like it's so prevalent. Seeing is so prevalent. So any sense of like, I'm here, look, okay, my hands are here, they exist, right? Okay, is there a sense my hands don't exist now, or is there a sense that they're somewhere, right? Okay, the mind did that, right? It's not like, I mean, if we didn't have such prevalent CN, when you look at one side of the room and you look at the other, panic because this side of the room is gone. It's like, no, the mind, it's very good at like holding things stable using CN. We would be so freaked out all the time if it didn't have this nice stable sort of field of CN that it could produce in that way. So it's so common. So I mean, you can do it right now, just like, you know, hey, you're in the world, close your eyes. Is there a sense that the world is just gone and now you're floating in a black abyss and there's just nothing there? No, it's clear the world is right there. There's no question. The world is there, so to speak. And you open the eyes and it's confirmed, right? However, experientially, from a first-person perspective, it does disappear, and the way that it is maintained is through seeing. It's very, very, very common. So, I still want to know who this Robert Casino is. I'll show you this is, to me, I think is very funny. I sort of see it, but okay, this is this actor. I get this guy a lot. This is what people say I look like. So that's not an. Let's see. Can I just open this? Computer, let me work. Let me do my thing. Monitor 2. Yes, we'll activate monitor 2 and do this. This dude. Can people see that? This guy. Hey. Now I can't grab the window? What are you telling me here? Get out of here. This dude. Get in the... Get... that guy. Okay. Whatever. This is the dude that I get all the time. There we go. I guess I see it. He's an attractive guy, and I guess the joke on the show is that he's like Mr. Here he looks very, very attractive. Here he looks sort of dopey. I think I'm a little, I get on the dopey side, but I think it's funny. People say, you look like the guy from Scooby-Doo, which is, I think it's such a, I'm like, oh, good, cool. I feel like I look more like Scooby-Doo himself. Cool. So, beep, boop, blop. We need a pre-beard photo. You don't look like that guy, I think. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do? Pre-beard photo. If someone can, okay, so I want to answer this question. If someone can, this is a long walk, so if someone wants to do this, go onto my Facebook, go into photos that say the past, and then there's photos of me pre-beard on there. Actually, I don't have my wallet. I could show you my my driver's license. It's from like 13 years ago, before I had this beard. So if you want to do that right now, so it's Janusz Wellen, it's my name, Facebook, album, The Past. Lots of funny pictures. I'll pull it up if you can pull the link, but I don't want to take the time to do it because I want to answer Rostin C. PhD's question. Deep mindfulness. Do you believe in astronauts? Do I believe in astronauts? I mean, do I believe they can do it if they really try? Yeah, sure. I didn't used to believe in them, but my smart friend recently told me that they're actually a thing. Am I misreading this? Is this a typo? Because I do believe in astronauts. just to be perfectly clear on my beliefs. I do believe in astronauts. Thank you for letting me know the camera froze. Let's see here. Beep boop boop. Oh, the camera keeps freezing here. I don't know what's up with that. Frozen again. All right, we'll have to fix that somehow. Okay. Do I believe in astronauts? Yes, I believe in astronauts. Oh, something funny's happening. The window's there, even though I turned it off on the thing. Oh, there we go. Cha-ching. So, do I believe in astronauts? My friend said there actually are a thing. I didn't realize we had the technology to build astronauts. Okay, I'm liking where this is going. They look like really advanced human-like robots. Amazing that we can do that. Do I believe in astronaut robots? Well, you know, I wasn't going to say it, but I do believe that astronauts are real. I said it. That's it. I don't give a crap what that does to my career. I believe in astronauts. Take it or leave it, folks. If you don't like my take, you can just leave the damn live stream, okay? If that's how you feel. But I know that you're here because you're like-minded like me. You know the truth. Hashtag astronaut truth. Astronauts exist. Are they robots? Well, aren't we all kind of robots in some way? So, hashtag astronaut truth. I feel like that's got to be a typo. That's the kind of thing. I feel like that's the kind of thing I want to interact with on the internet. This is good. So, Rostin, I want you. I hope you stick around because this is exactly the kind of internet action that I want appearing on the live stream. Okay, folks. So, if there are any other questions, if anyone wants to, I have I have a friend. I don't know if we're friends anymore because when they say stuff that's like very, very far from being real, I bring it up to them. They bring stuff up in a public forum, and I'm like, hey, I just want to point out that is a falsehood, and no offense, but that's what it is. One of the biggest things is they are a flat Earth advocate. And whenever you corner them, whenever I say like, hey, that seems like really problematic because you have a big audience, they'll say, well, like from a Buddhist perspective and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, we're not playing that game. Do you believe the earth is a sphere or not? And they're like, they kind of hem and haw. The fact that they hem and haw is enough to make me just be like, oh, smack my forehead. And, but there you go. So folks, I know I want to, listen, I fully plan on having this person on the stream. And actually, because they're actually a really intelligent person, and I was going to talk about a whole variety of things because they're pretty interesting. However, I felt, maybe this is me being overly ethical, but I felt like I couldn't have them on the stream and give them more of a platform without being like, yo, let's talk about this thing that you've talked about in the past, and then always try to erase it. They're like, hey, flat earth, this and that, and then I'll like point that out, and they'll erase the sort of post and then be like, what? And then gaslight me about things that they've said and then say, I never said that. And so it's like, I can't have a discussion with someone who's going to argue in bad faith at that level. So I've thought about having him on the stream, but the thing is, it would just be contentious. And I have a very high threshold for conflict. I can just be like, go into a situation, argue with somebody, and it doesn't bother me at all. But it's very unpleasant for other people, and I'm trying to heed that because otherwise I create very, very unpleasant situations for people. So that's the general breakdown. Can I get Eckhart Tolle on stream? Quite honestly, probably not. He is very exclusive. He doesn't do a lot of other people's stuff. That would be lovely. I'd love to have him on stream. And that said, I think that's a very low likelihood that that's possible. Although I think he's pretty great. I respect him a lot. He's very good at explaining this material from a first-person perspective. The problem is, and this is, Shinzen talks about this too, because his experience is of a spontaneous awakening, he often doesn't have sort of the mechanical tools of how to move yourself into that material. And that's one of the reasons why I really like Shinzen, because it's a very formalized, and we say, okay, do this and do this and do this, and I'll tend to push the system in that direction. Okay, folks, so we're going to call it for the day. Lovely to see you. Oh, I got to double check if I have to jump off like this a second. I think I have somebody. Calendar says, okay, I have a few seconds before it begins. Okay, folks, lovely to see you here. I do have one last thing for you. I have a wish. It's a wish that you have not only just a lovely day, but also that you have a chance to look at your sensory experience, to observe the sense data of being and living, existing human being. to connect with that experience and to enjoy the wonder and splendor, the impossibility of having this human universe that we explore and navigate every day, and how that is built out of all of these sensory experiences that are simple, continuously showing themselves to us and guiding us into deeper insight, and using that insight and that depth of experiencing to create a more fulfilling and impactful life, making the changes where changes need to be made, and supporting those who need support. Folks, have a lovely day. In fewer than 48 hours, we'll be back here to answer your question, and we're going to be answering a very important question. Do astronauts eat? I won't tell you what I believe, but I'll tell you at the next stream. Folks, have a lovely day. Have fun. Take care of each other. And of course,